King. King.
Absurd defiance ends here, henchman. The hatchling symbolizes.
Hey guys, so today I want to share my high-end multi-mirror Penance build. It's not quite done, but I would say it's like 95% finished. So this is more so this is a showcase, not a guide, because most people probably don't have like 6, 7+ mirrors. Although you definitely can make a pretty effective Penance character for under 1 mirror. I probably will release a video and POV for that as well, but it will be quite expensive if you want to play Trickster. The reason why Trickster is more so expensive than other ascendancies is that you're going ES. Because you're going ES, you really need to explode scepters, which are not cheap. You can get a base implicit one, like 100 divines, but these are very, very expensive scepters, while stuff like Inquisitor or Elementalist or Jug even can get explode on chest for relatively cheap, like 20 divines or less, like a really good chest. You can't really do that on Trickster because you need to go a full ES evasion hybrid chest to get that massive defense boost. So yeah, this is more sort of a showcase rather than a full guide, but I will explain everything for people that maybe have this currency, who have closest currency. You definitely replicate a pretty similar character for like 2 or 3 mirrors and have a really good time. The purpose of this character was to be all map mod viables. So I essentially made this character so I could run 5 risk scarabs on tier 17 maps, and it has proven to do that pretty effectively. I've currently leveled up to 97 doing these 5 risk maps, so extremely rippy maps. Leveling these maps is extremely hard because if you roll some like negative max and volatiles, all the volatiles in the map should one-shot you, so you have to dodge them all. If you roll like negative 20% max and 3% fizz as extra, once again, almost everything one-shots you. You really need to be a very fast character, pretty high avoidance and really high range in order to do these risk maps, which is what I built this character to do. It's also all map mod viable. That is the most important thing, because if you're running 5 risk scarabs, you need to be all map mod viable. I do have 2 versions of this character, and I'll share both down below. But yeah, we have the Penance brand Mage Blood version and the Penance brand Headhunter version. I'm currently playing the Headhunter version. It is pretty fun, especially for Abyss where there's lots of rares, but the Mage Blood version is what I'm going to go over, and it's a lot more tanky. As you can see here, no guard skill clicked. We are at 100k Ellie max hit, 149k fire max hit, and 38k fizz max hit, with a pretty decent 70% chance to evade. Over 11k ES, you can get a little bit more if you want. Essentially, the only thing that kills my character is volatiles with these damage or negative max modifiers. Volatiles are just extremely annoying. They do a stupid amount of damage. Honestly, these should be nerfed. But besides that, I pretty much live everything else. My character is extremely tanky and extremely high damage. We're actually at just about 700 mil DPS. We have 2 brands attached to enemy. Over 700 mil DPS Penance brand. As you can see in the showcase in the start, I believe I killed Uber Exarch in like 2 seconds flat. And keep in mind, Uber bosses have 80% DR at the start. So very, very tanky if you don't have to DR, which I didn't, and I just insta-killed him. I insta-killed tier 17 bosses, pretty much anything in the game. My DPS is quite overkill. I probably could go lower DPS, and this DPS is achieved through Doriani Merc. So yeah, let me go over the whole character. I guess first things first, if anything, we should go with the Merc. The reason why the Merc is important is because of Doriani's prototype and the auras. This allows Trickster to really excel to new heights. Usually the go-to for Penance brands Inquisitor, but I feel like Inquisitor is just not as ideal this league because you cannot abuse Doriani's, and Doriani's is hands down the most broken item you can give to your Merc. If you don't know what this does, nearby enemies have lightning resist equal to yours, and he has negative 200% lightning resist. And if you're wondering, okay, does he die? The answer is more or less no. I played for 10-11 hours yesterday, and he only died once in that entire play session, doing like 4, 5, or like 3 risk maps. He's extremely tanky, very, very reliable. Namely, the defense comes from the Helical Ring, which is a 43% damage recoup his life, reflected, so 86% recoup, and Defiance of Destiny. If you have these items, plus Cat Resist, and like high armor, helmet, and boots, he cannot die. Also, replica Alberons to make him reflect immune. You can also get Calm's Binding, a little bit extra DR, and then my 2 scepters is Wrath Effect and Increased Area Effect. This just gives you a lot more damage, and Increased Area Effect also increases his AoE for his auras, so a Zeal Tree of Wrath is always on you. That's the other important thing. He has Zeal Tree and Wrath, which gives you two 50% mana reservation auras for free, which is absolutely insane. And these, I believe, are base level 27. So they're also extremely effective high level auras as well. They're usually better auras than you can equip. This Merc is just stupid amount of damage. If I go to my pop real quick, if you want to see the damage, how much is my Merc giving me? Well, if we take off the Light and Resist, and we take off the aura effect, let's say, as you can see, we fall down to 58 mil from 350 mil. So yeah, he gives you an absolutely stupid amount of damage. The Merc really makes this build. If it wasn't for the Merc, you would have to go Original Sin. And I get that question a lot. Why not Original Sin? Well, you're not playing Original Sin this league because Doriani's is just simply better. Yeah, that's a Merc setup. That's namely why the build is so stupidly strong. I built around the Merc. My whole character really does not function without him. And he does live. Like I said, he died once in a 10 to 11 hour play session. So not a big deal whatsoever. And he only died because he stood on Cyrus Desecrated Ground for like 10 seconds. Because you can't regen while on Cyrus's Awakener Storm. Next, let's go over the character. So we have 2 Mirror Scepters. This is the most important mirror item in the build. You can make your own scepter and buy a Synth Explode base, but those are 100 plus divines and plus another like 50 to 80 divines to craft. Yeah, these are the most important scepters. Increase AoE enchant to try to get our explosion radius to really high AoE. Mirror Helmet. This is you don't need to mirror. It is good to have. It is more damage, but you can make more budget versions of these, like 50 to 80 divines. Pretty effective. Mirror Chest. Also, don't need to mirror this. Just pretty effective. You can get like 20% less defense for a self-crafted chest. Mirror Ring. These are important. If you're wondering what the most important mirror items to make or to mirror yourself, it's the scepters, then the ring. The ring is really high value because of Kalandra's touch. We have +1 power charge is massive for this build because we are a power charge stack and build. And then of course it has really nice mana cost reduction, high crit multi, and cast speed. This isn't the most optimal version of the ring. The most optimal version has crit multi instead of increased intelligence, which I probably will get eventually. That's it for the mirror gear. I'll go over the rare gear now, which is not finished. So we have a Simplex. To finish this amulet, you want to use a Veiled Orb and unveil increased brand attachment range, and then ideally you spend like 50 plus hidden chorus locks to get triple positive. That would be the GG amulet. Of course, that would be very expensive, so I'm just selling this for now. If you're wondering if you should go crit multi or cast speed, you want to go cast speed because cast speed to movement speed. With a lot of cast speed, this frost blink feels very satisfying and very fast. So I do recommend cast speed on amulet over the crit multi. Besides that, we have some gloves right here, chill damage against enemies, fire and cold resist, cast speed while focus, and just triple ES prefix. Not quite perfect, tier 1, tier 1, tier 2. I will craft this later, of course, but for now, this is good enough. I don't think this suffix is ideal. I probably will change the suffix for increased brand attachment range over the increased attack speed while focus, because I already have so much damage. I don't really need this focus button. Be -1 button, and I'll have more brand attachment range. Besides that, it's very important to have this 35% of physical damage compared to line damage on the implicit. I'll go over that in a second. Other modifier is Unnerve, which is probably the best thing you can get here. Next is the boots, which I also do need to recraft. These also aren't finished, so it's a tier 1, tier 2 prefix. I need to recraft these again. Movement speed and onslaught and kill. If you're playing Headhunter, this is how you get your onslaught. Dex, intelligence, and 1 resist. I will replace this intelligence for an abyssal socket, as you don't really need that many gem sockets on this build. So that intelligence will go to abyssal socket later on. That's how I'll get my phase in on kill. So yeah, I do need to recraft these, but these are good enough for now. The important thing here is that implicit right there, gain 5% of physical damage as extra cold damage. This is how you chill bosses. That 5% is enough because you deal so much damage. And chilling is important because of your helmet, where you have a level 25 hypothermia, which is around like 35% more damage. So it's very important to chill. Also, this 5% is enough to actually shatter enemies, normal and rare, and even some magic mobs while mapping. So yeah, very nice. Then Headhunter. This can be Headhunter or Mage Blood. The Mage version is a lot tankier, but Headhunter with a lot of buffs is a lot more fun and probably overall better for like juice tier 17 high-end content, as Headhunter gives you a lot of really good buffs. That's it mostly for the gear. The flash real quick. We have Orias End, Wine of the Prophet, Quicksilver, Ruby Flask, and a Diamond Flask. This Diamond Flask can be anything. I just settled on Diamond for now. Ruby Flask is for volatiles. Like I said, volatiles are the biggest thing, the biggest set for this build, and pretty much any build in the game. So I went with a Ruby Flask. Can maybe take less damage of volatiles, so sometimes I do live through them. But like I said, if the map has like negative max, you're dead either way. So you can replace this if you want. Wine of the Prophet. I get this question a lot. Is this flask worth it? And I think it's yes. There's really nothing else to use. This flask is pretty nice. You get a random divination buff for 20 seconds when used. And this buff can be anywhere from like utility to damage to like just a meme buff. But it is very strong, and I do think it is worth using on this character and for most characters if you can fit it in. Most so for like high-end juice mapping. So I'll go to the passive tree real quick as well. This is the Trickster passive tree. It is kind of all over the place because you're playing Trickster. You need to like, grab, Ghost Dance, Ghost Reaver, CI, and you also need to travel over to Runebinder. So your tree is kind of all over the place. what is the most effective tree I could possibly make. So to start off, we just have this jewel here, Lightning Meaning, to see a lot of ES. As you can see here, about 1k ES. You will get more damage with the rare jewel, but I already have so much damage that I'd rather have the ES. We're also using our rune graft, 40% increased global defense. This is a pretty strong rune this patch. We don't care for the reduced attributes, and as everyone probably knows, global defense on Trickster is very, very strong. So combined with the chest, we pretty much have 100% increased global defense, which is a ton of extra evasion and a ton of extra energy shield. Or we Grandmaster Suppress Wheel to get suppress cap, using a ton of suppressed tattoos as well, which is pretty important. We do tattoo all of our intelligence tattoos to increase maximum ES. This is the most efficient thing to do. You get a ton of extra ES this way. Of course, we grab Ghost Dance, Ghost Reaver. We do have a 1 passive voice cluster. A 3 passive voice cluster is also fine. It's +1 passive point. The reason why you're doing this is because clusters actually aren't that efficient on brand characters, but you do want 3 medium clusters. So if you don't use a voice, you would have to use 2 large clusters, which would not be efficient for your passives. So using a voice solves this. The reason why you want to use 3 mediums is for remarkable skills which create brands have a 30% chance to create additional brand. So with 3 of these, you have a 100% chance to always create 2 brands, which is extremely nice for clearing. I highly recommend to always use this. Without this, it feels way worse in my opinion. And you also get 3 grand designs, which are quite nice because you get brand duration and increased brand attachment range. Brand duration is actually like a hidden damage multiplier because of how Penance brand works. This is a very, very nice cluster. And all our rare jewels look more or less like this, where it's increased ES and then double crit multi or triple crit multi. Some of them have cast speed, some of them have other stats, but yeah, you want increased energy shield with double crit multi. As for the unique jewels, another part of passive tree, we have a Militant Faith here, a pretty classic combo. Militant Faith by sign area with Unnatural Instinct, and they get all these nodes that count towards Militant Faith. So very, very nice. This also gives a ton of increased area effect, which is extremely nice for your Penance brand and Explosion, because that's the only way you have AoE clear is through increased area effect. This Militant Faith right here, these are pretty easy to find. Mine is increased area damage and elemental resist. This can also be brand damage. It can be elemental damage, but I do think this is probably like the best one you can do. And the reason why you want one with Thunderous Devotion, 15% of fizz damage converted to lightning damage. Like I said before, we'll get 35% from our gloves, 15% here, and then 50% on Penance brand itself, giving you 100% lightning conversion, which is extremely important because of Doriani's, where you want to be doing pure lightning damage to benefit from that negative 200% lightning resist. That is how we get full conversion here. And you do want it on the Harrier node right here because it's probably the weakest node. It's just 6% increased cast speed. Movement speed doesn't matter that much because using Frost Blink, which you blast and move around. So yeah, it's only an increased cast speed you lose out on. Very little cost opportunity here. And then you still want to keep Foresight and Reflex. You need this for suppression cap. And this gives a ton of ES. So the only node you want to replace is Harrier. That's that. We are going to CBMU from Natural Instinct. Otherwise, you need this on a normal jewel. And lastly, you path over here. You get Rune Miner, which doubles your damage. Very, very important to grab this. We get this brand wheel. Also extremely important because you can cast 2 additional brands. So you can have 5 brands out, which is very, very nice for clearing instead of 3 brands. Extremely important to take this mastery. And of course, more brand attachment range. As you can see here, our brand attachment range is 6.8 meters. With a reflected amulet, you go up to 9 to 10 meters brand attachment range, which is, extreme range. It makes it really better for clearing, but it is pretty expensive to get that brand attachment reflected amulet, which I will eventually go for. Then of course, we're grabbing our last power charge, as we are grabbing all power charges, as we are power charge stacking. Yeah, that's mostly about it for the skill tree. As for our watchers of choice, I have a triple prop Wrath Watchers. The most important mod here is gain physical damage as extra lightning damage. That is the most important mod. The second mod can be Zero Tree, it can be a Wrath modifier, whatever. But as extra lightning damage is the best modifier on your Watcher's Eye. It gives you the most damage. Now I'll also go over my Animate Guardian real quick. This guy dies all the time, so he's not that important. But essentially he has a Doppelganger guys, he has a Kingmaker, and he has Southbound gloves. Those are the 3 uniques. Then he has this life resist boots and life resist helmet, and that's it. He dies most of the time. I maybe will try to upgrade him more in the future to make him live, but he does live for like half the map, so he's useful enough to have. In this patch, Animate Guardian keeps all the items when it dies, so if you have the spare sockets, you might as well use it, which I do. But otherwise, you don't really have to bother with him if you don't want to. It's just a nice extra, Fortify, Cold, and some crit multi every now and then. Pretty useful on bosses, especially if you're lower gear. Lastly, we'll go to gem links real quick. So the main skill, Penance brand, we have it in the helmet, of course, because we have like a 7-link helmet, extremely strong. These are the classic Penance brand helmets. They just give it a ton of more damage. You have Penance brand, Swift brand, makes it way better for clear and way more immediate damage. Power charge on crit is how you generate power charges, and inspiration to reduce the mana cost. On our scepters, we have more duration, frost shield, assassin's mark. Assassin's mark is you press it on bosses only, some bonus damage, and that's really it. Frost Shield, also pretty nice on bosses, makes it a little bit more tanky. You can also use it for like map clearing if you're doing Abyss and you're staying stationary for a while. It does make you quite a bit more tanky. More duration, this is kind of pointless. It's just kind of here because I have nothing else to use. Maybe there's something else I could use. But yeah, I just have more duration, so Frost Shield lasts a little bit longer, but it's not that important. We have Automation, Immortal Call, Arcane Surge. We have it on Automation here instead of casting damage taken, so we can have a complete 100% uptime on Arcane Surge, which is got buffed this patch, so you have 20% increased cast speed, and gives you mana regen as well. You can also use cast damage taken, but then your Arcane Surge won't be 100% uptime. The choice is up to you, but I do like the automation. I think it is good enough for this build. As for our gloves, we have Inspiration, Faster Casting, Spell Echo, and Frostblink Wizardly Blast. Inspiration is reduced mana cost, but it's not needed. But yeah, as you can see, without like any buffs whatsoever, so no Hunter buffs, like no Mage Blood, it's extremely fast. If you still Soul Eater, you're blinking across the map in like 2 seconds. This feels so good to play when you have this much cast speed. Definitely one of my favorite movement skills in the game, if not my favorite. It's very, very smooth. Then for boots, we went over this earlier, but Animate Guardian, Minion Life, Elemental Army, and Meat Shield. Combined with your Purity of Elements, you're pretty much res cap on your Animate Guardian, and you want Chaos Res on your boots and helmet from him, so he's almost Chaos Res cap as well. Then lastly, the chest, Temporal Rift, Discipline, Held of Ash, Arctic Armor, Enlighten, and Purity of Elements. There's a few options here. The reason why I'm using Temporal Rift is for the second thing right here. Debuffs expiring you 23% faster, so there is a tier 17 modifier where it says deal no damage 3 seconds out of 10. This reduces that duration, so it's extremely nice. If you're not doing Risk Scarabs, you can roll that modifier, and therefore you won't have to use Temporal Rift. Then we have Discipline. This is mandatory, so it gives a ton of ES. Arctic Armor, this is for volatiles, and to make it a little bit more tanky versus fist damage, but it's mainly for volatiles. You can replace this for Held of Purity or Held of Ice if you want a little bit more MTX to make it look better. And then Held of Ash. This is extremely important for clear. Highly recommend a Held of Ash here. I was using Held of Purity at first, but Held of Ash really improves the clear quite immensely. I'd never replace this one at least. You can replace Arctic Armor though if you want. Enlighten, of course, to reduce the mana cost. And then Purity of Elements is how we get Alien Immune. The resist doesn't matter too much, but it does help for maps where you're taking like altars for negative res. Yeah, that's it for about the gems, the gear, and all the skill links. Besides that, I don't think there's much else to talk about this character. The showcase should have showed some nice gameplay and the damage of this character. Once again, this character is fully built for 16 mod tier 17 maps or like 18 mods tier 16.5 maps. Extremely strong character, can do all map modifiers. If you're wondering how do you handle no regen, you just gotta put a mana flask on and that's it. Every other map modifier is doable. No recovery, whatever, doesn't matter because you're playing Trickster. And the reason why Trickster is so good is because one, your action speed immune 1 step ahead, and Polymath gives you ES on kill, which goes through any map modifier. Even if the map has 100% less recovery, if you have 5% ES on kill, you're still recovering ES on every single kill. So yeah, these two modifiers alone makes Trickster so extremely strong for these tier 17 maps with Risk Scarab. And then besides that, a ton of ES from Escape Artist, and of course Soul Drinker for nice overleech. Also, talk about Reflect Immune real quick before I forget. To get Reflect Immune on the Mage Blood version is pretty easy. On Mage Blood version, you just use 1 flask with reduced reflected damage, and then take Reflected Pantheon. The reason why you need more than 100% because if you get marked for death on your map, you take increased damage, and therefore you take increased reflected damage. Essentially how Puyo works, you need more than 100% reduced reflected damage if you want to be completely immune. So yeah, use a flask plus Pantheon. For the Headhunter variant, you will have to take this mastery right here, reduce reflect damage. You'll have to take this Pantheon, and then you either need to take a flask with that same crafted modifier, or you'll need a Watcher's Eye with reduced reflected damage with Purity of Elements. Those are the 2 ways to solve it. But yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. But yeah, this character is extremely strong, extremely fun, and I still have more upgrades to do. That's about it.